Buenas
Welcome.
tardes, buenas noches.
Quisiera felicitarlos por todo el largo trayecto que han hecho en el cine. Bueno, inicio Patrushka, y es cómo ha evolucionado tu trabajo en el departamento de sonido, porque desde tus primeros trabajos me gustaría saber sobre dos proyecciones interesantes, que es Getting Even y On More Chance.
This question is from Patrushka. Jhon is asking you, how do you see the evolution in your work in the sound department? And he's talking about two productions. I think there are two early productions that are Getting Even and One More Chance.
Oh, those
Yeah.
movies go back to 1980. So that's a span of 44 years. Because the technology keeps evolving and the work protocols change every few years, you can imagine that the job of the sound department today is barely recognizable from the work we used to do. The core work, capturing actors' performances and creating the first soundscape of the film, remains our primary contribution. With the development of newer cameras and mechanisms that allow cameras to go higher, faster, places that humans can't accompany them, we're tasked with creating solutions to capturing the world the camera sees. We're also managing tasks such as coordinating work protocols, frequency coordination for all the department's use of all their electronic devices, and we're supplying audio to remote factions of the company or the studio. Our production department's work has increased so as to require a third person regularly and often a fourth or more. And in fact, on 1917, there were 7 sound people, and on Cats, a musical, 17.
Lo interesante no solo en Patrushka, sino también en Mar, es que aparte de que todo lo que ha hecho en el departamento de sonido de la película, me encantaría que nos hablara sobre Tim Nothing y Anne Rey. Primero esa, porque otra pregunta se viene.
Okay, this question is from Mark, and he's asking you about working in the department of two movies that are Teen Me Nothing and S-Ray.
Wow.
S-Ray. Wow, yeah. Way ago, man.
Such different circumstance, and also both extremely early. Think Me Nothing's actually before X-Ray. Do you know of this film? Have you seen it? Do you have an awareness?
Jhon, que si te has visto Teen Me Nothing.
Claro, sí. Ahí estaba en las páginas, claro, por supuesto.
Yeah.
Súper. Felicitaciones.
Wow. Well, it was among my first feature films in Los Angeles, and I did the post-production and the production sound on that. Because my connection happened because I became fascinated with American Sign Language, the language of the deaf. And it was, I was in an immersion interpreter training class in Los Angeles, where I met a group of people in the deaf community who were part of their film community. And I became good friends with the director, cinematographer, Peter Wolf, who was prelingually deaf, which means he was born deaf. And he was the director, writer, and producer and cinematographer of Think Me Nothing. And he had a exhibition date in 6 weeks at the Castro Theater in San Francisco, and decided he wanted to add a complete soundtrack to a film that had no sound at all because it was made for the deaf. And he wanted it to be accessible to hearing people. And my language skills in sign language had gotten pretty good by that point in time. So we dove into a 6-week, day and night, intense, creation of sound for a film, and with a director who had never heard and wasn't going to hear, and someone and I'm a musician and a sound person who spoke language, my second language. And it was a exercise in analogy, if you will, an exercise in analogy. I would be in conversations in my second language explaining to a deaf person what wind chimes sound like. It would be like explaining the color blue to someone who was born blind, but he is very, very bright, and I was very, very committed, and we developed a friendship, and we finished the film and succeeded in creating a soundtrack for the both the hearing and the deaf audience. So it was quite a mental challenge in the exercise of communication, which was really the important piece, because filmmaking is all about telling stories. And that's why it's a universal kind of communication tool. So that was a very, very seminal experience for me. X-ray, well, it was my second Canon film, I think. And I started it as the boom operator. Got called away by the same company to begin another film. So about 2 weeks in, I took over as mixer, and it was a doorway in my early time with horror and low budget exploitation films. Having graduated working with Roger Corman, this was Canon Films, which was, in those days, after working at Roger Corman, your next level of moving up the ladder of the industry was working for Canon. So this was partially that for me, and it was a very interesting experience.
That was beautiful, and I promise to translate everything to Jhon later. Jhon, eso fue hermoso.
Good luck.
No, es hermoso, claro que sí. Hay algo interesante antes de seguir con Patrushka, y es que, Mar, estoy indagando mucho sobre los fans, que la verdad me han preguntado, y yo estoy investigando, ¿cómo fue dirigida Katharine Hepburn en el corto Juliana, a Portrait?
This question is from Mar also, and it's not from Jhon, it's from your fans, because Jhon was asking your fans, how was the experience of directing the amazing Katharine Hepburn and a portrait too?
Oh, Juliana, a portrait. It was a terrific experience. Again, it grew out of my engagement and connection with the deaf community in Los Angeles at the time. And Juliana was a prominent artist, director, poet, and actress who became the center of that film, and also had a friend relationship with Katharine Hepburn through their mutual connection of Spencer Tracy. And so we approached Katharine Hepburn to do intro bumpers for the film, and she said yes. So Patrushka and I spent an entire day alone with Katharine Hepburn in her New York brownstone apartment, directing her I was directing her for that. And it's one of the highlights of my career. I've had a lot of good things happen to me, but I have to thank Patrushka for reaching out and succeeding in communicating with Katharine. She said, call her Kate, so I will. And we were just two filmmakers, working through what was necessary for the film. It was a very good thing for me as a filmmaker and as a director.
I really appreciate that. She was very open, and something you don't see a lot of these days. It wasn't about being a star, and it was about the work. And she had read a passage that she was going to do on screen, and they talked about it, and she did it. I think it was the first take, and then she just turned and she said, "That stunk, didn't it?" And it was just, she was an actor, Mark was a director. It wasn't about who's who and what they, symbolize to the outside world. It's about, we're trying to achieve something in the moment. And she was honest about thinking it wasn't going to work. And they would, it's something I remember from our early days. We were very fortunate enough to come into the business when a lot of those stars from the golden age of the 40s, like Hepburn, like Jason Robards Jr., like Ray Milland, Polly Bergen, et cetera, Ava Gardner. We worked with all those people, and there was a certain ethic, a work ethic, and an openness to being with the crew that you don't see a lot of these days.
They knew their craft, and their craft wasn't where it stopped. Their craft was like for musicians who become fluent in an instrument. Their craft was the basis for transcending the instrument and creating something special.
And like Marce, thank you, Patricia, for allowing that. Jhon, hermoso, continúa.
Bueno, Patrushka, ahí también hay que enfatizar sobre las obras de Stephen King, cuyo, y pues tú sabes, Pet Sematary, que fue las que hizo en el departamento de sonido, que es algo increíble, no solo por las novelas, sino también por adaptarla al cine.
Okay, this is for both of you, and yeah, I thank you on this question because, as you may hear, yeah, we're talking about adapting and creating the soundscapes from Stephen King, Cujo and Pet Sematary. So, anything you want to say, both of you?
Okay.
Well, yes, they're both thank you. They're both movies that were turned into books by Stephen King, but they really were very different.
Books first, then turned into movies.
What did I say?
Movies turned into.
Oh, I can do that again. They're both books by Stephen King that were turned into movies, but they're very different. And my philosophy is to treat each project on its own. So I read the script and I think, what's the tone of the piece? What mood or genre is the director trying to create? And with that in mind, I think, what elements am I reading that inspire me to make a note of them, and then have a question with Mark, a conversation about him, and can we flesh out something? Isn't that an interesting little something in the script that I either read or I imagined, and I'm bringing to his attention so we can have further discussion about that. Unfortunately, on those particular projects, the post-production people weren't available to have conversations with. And again, that was decades ago, and that's very different from, say, Quentin Tarantino's movies, in which the production and post-production sound principles meet ahead of production. And I think the audience can hear that difference. Those soundtracks of Quentin and Mark's, and they just jump out at you. But back to those movies, they both involved young actors, and it's important to make sure that you have their trust. And because I'm so close to them personally, because I'm wiring them, and again, physically, because I'm on the set with them, I'm naturally in a position to keep an eye on the actor's well-being, and I take that very seriously and to heart. And for everyone, actually, I try to watch out. There are so many moving parts on a film, and so many people are hurrying, that I really, my job is to watch everything, to memorize it, to notice when something changes, either during takes, and I watch them in between takes to see if something's going to change. So, gosh, I'm not really sure what else to say about those movies.
I will comment on Petrushka's amazing talent for intuition. She becomes a student of the project and comes to it without a presumption that she knows everything. She comes open to the information and comes with curiosity, and it allows her to anticipate. She can anticipate, read actors, maybe, and sometimes more than they can read themselves. And that's essential for us to be able to be in fluent flow with the scenes when they happen. If we have to stop and think about it when it's a performance, it's too late. We have to be performing the same way the actors are in real time. And Petrushka's a master at that. So together we create a kind of collaboration that is, I guess people like what we do. They like our sound because we're not technicians, we're filmmakers, and we come to the idea that we're telling a story together with the other departments who are doing the same with their tools, cameraman, the production designer, hair, makeup, editing. Like them, we are creatives coming to interpret the idea of the script and the director and the actor's performance in a way that connects the characters to the audience.
And we're not shy about talking to directors about what they want to capture, or something that we see, or something that we'd like to contribute. And it's a nice relationship.
And that's why those movies became classics, even called classics, or with box office. But I will let Jhon talk. Jhon, incredible.
Felicitarlos no solo eso, sino también preguntarle a Mar sobre, bueno, a ambos que también contribuyeron, pero también felicitaciones a Mar también por el Oscar, por lo de Titanic, una anécdota acerca sobre ello, y bueno, también Patrushka que también contribuyó en la historia también.
You know that was coming? Yeah. In fact, I was watching that video from the
Is
Oscars.
it a
and
boat movie?
Yeah, about Titanic, whatever you want to say.
What is it that you would like to
There's
know?
so much.
What would you like to?
John made it very wide open, but I will ask if he got something specific. John, dice Market, ¿tú qué quieres saber específicamente? Así que vota.
Lo que nunca le has dicho algo a los medios o algo que la verdad, no sé, algo interesante.
That's how we feel.
John is crazy. Whatever you want, haven't say to the media. Go ahead.
There's different levels because it was such a complex and profoundly significant event. In cinema, it was a significant event for me personally as a filmmaker. The relationship I had with Jim Cameron and Russell Carpenter, the cinematographer, and with the principal cast, Kate and Leo. Leo and I have now just last year we finished our fourth movie together, and so Leo turned 21 on Titanic. He's now he's in his 50s. So it's a long journey of growth and expansion as artists each in our own specialty. But Titanic was a kind of situation that we'll never see again. It's before computers and CGI really dominated the creation of cinema. It was early and there was some of that there, but it was in real time with a huge amount of people. We had almost 1,000 people on the crew, 500 in the daytime, 500 in the nighttime. And it was needed because everything we did was in real time, in real scale. So it wasn't something created after the fact. And there were 90 speaking parts. It was complicated and very demanding, but it was an opportunity that Jim Cameron gave all of us to reach our highest level, our maximum potential, because he needed, in the complexity of those days, people who interpreted what he was trying to do, even if he didn't say it. We had to be like musicians who've played together and have nonverbal communication, understanding what is the situation and what do we need to create to make it work in this moment. Every day, every shot was handmade by artists together all at one time. So it was the most pure kind of cinema experience someone could have. I hope that helps answer your curiosity.
Beautiful. And before I let my friend John, it's beautiful what you say, because now that time has passed, you talk about Leo, how that kid became that amazing actor and person. Wow. Who had thought that this man now had won an Oscar, got an amazing career, is an actor or actors? But I will let John talk. John dice que ojalá haya satisfecho tu curiosidad. Yo después te digo lo que digo. Increíble.
No, maravilloso. También hay que resaltarle que, bueno, agradecimientos también a Marco Freitas porque nos lo recomendó, que es un excelente investigador, periodista, sino que también que me interesó mucho en que Mar y Patrushka puedan comentarnos sobre los cursos que están brindando y también cuando desean explorar Latinoamérica.
This is a bit tense from Marcus Freitas. He was the person that made this possible, and the cameras from both of you to this one told about the courses that you are telling to new filmmakers. And yeah, you got some words from Latin America. You know that every movie that you had made is now global. So you got fans here. So go ahead.
We teach and lecture around the world, and I have 2 books out on Amazon. One is Behind the Sound Cart, and there is a Spanish version coming. So you'll just have to watch Facebook groups for that. And the second one is Beneath the Boom Pole. It's the first and only book written specifically about boom operating and how to keep yourself safe on the set, because it's a very physically, socially demanding job. And if you don't know how to do it properly, you can get hurt. So I'm all about safety. And we also have a website www.markandpatrushka.com. And we're available to speak online or in person to universities or film groups. And we occasionally take on mentees. Yep.
Yep. Jhon.
Y por último, ¿cómo definen todo su trabajo en una palabra?
Oh my God. The final question is the most difficult one. Both of you, try to define your amazing, if we say this word, Titanic career, in one word. Both of you.
Oh, that's easy for me. My word is gratitude. I'm very grateful.
And the beauty of that word is that in Spanish means the same, gratitude.
And in Italian too, gratitudine.
Gratitudine.
Buenos dias, Latin America.
Ciao, ciao.
I have one other thing to say quickly, which is it's important to remember that the reward is to get to do the thing you love to do. Oscars and other kinds of acknowledgement are very nice. They're appreciated. They're from for your family and your ego.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. But what does matter is that you are, permitted to do the work you love. And this is the gift.
Go ahead, bring him in.
Okay.
It's a real 3-shot.
Patrushka, Mar, muchas gracias por la oportunidad. Y
De nada.
Gracias a entrambi, 7 y migliori.
Well, send a link when you get it all together, okay?
Perfect.
And yes, not only the link. Jhon always sends a copy of the interview, so you wanna upload it wherever you want.
Lovely.
Okay.
Lovely,
Jhon, que
thank
envíes una
you.
copia de la entrevista
Yes.
también
Por
para él.
supuesto, te lo envío.
No, thanks to you. Thanks to you.
Gracias.
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 God bless you. Bye bye.